Okay, so I did a talk at McGill University. I think twice a year they run a really big conference, and it's virtual. At least the last few times have been virtual because of COVID. So you as a speaker, you do it through Zoom,
Right.
and I ended up getting invited and as a speaker because in the session that happened 6 months prior, 7 or 8 months prior, the only they run these things for several days, and it's basically speaker after speaker after speaker all day long. You just sort of pick what Zoom sessions you want to drop in on and register for and whatever, right? The
Cool.
only one of those sessions that filled the entire 400 seat capacity, seat as in like how many people can be on the Zoom session, right? The only one to fill all 400 seats was not one given by me, but
Oh,
I wrote the title for it. I wrote the headline. I know the person who gave it, and she said, like, I've got the content. I think that's good, but I don't have anything that's gonna like really induce people to get into there and register for it. And so I said, I'll tell you what, give me 5 minutes and I will write that for you. And I wrote it and gave it to her, and she used
awesome.
it, and she filled all 400 and was the only person in the entire like almost week long session that like packed the house just based on the headline, right?
Gotta love it.
So I get invited back and say, hey, like, would you come back and do a whole thing? So the one I did, it was last August, I think, was um, how to live rent free in other people's heads, what a ghostwriter knows about audience attention.
I love it.
Yeah, it was a pretty good talk. It was a lot of fun and a lot of feedback from it, a lot of good feedback. And I decided, you know what? After a few people have, it's now on my YouTube channel. Like if you look for Way Creative, 2 words, WAYE is my name, right? Way Creative on YouTube, you can find it there. I think it's still called like How to Live Rent Free in Other People's Heads. And a few people having seen it or even heard about the fact that it exists or they're on my mailing list, they said like, why don't you make like a little course about that? And I made courses in the past, online courses, but I don't generally make courses. I
Mm,
went ahead and workshopped the talk, made it a little shorter, punchier, some more examples and stuff. It still needs more examples, but more examples. And went to an advanced Toastmasters. You know what Toastmasters is? Like
I
the
do.
nonprofit where people sort of learn public speaking. Well,
Yes.
they're like regular Toastmasters clubs, and that's 95% of all Toastmasters clubs. And like literally anybody, even if you're petrified of talking to a crowd, can join there and learn. It's a great program and
It is a
costs
great program.
almost nothing, right? They cost like, I don't know, $25-$30 every 6 months, and it's really just to cover the cost of the club. They're not making a profit on it. They're a nonprofit.
Yes.
But there's like a 5% of Toastmasters clubs where advanced, like professional speakers and all those guys kind of hang out, right?
Hmm.
And I belong to one of those. And I attended one on Saturday and workshopped my talk. Like I redid the talk a little bit and gave it. And all of those people, and understand, these are people whose job it is as professional speakers to get and keep or get back audience attention.
Yes.
And they said, could you make a course out of that
Of
with
course
way
you could.
more examples for us so we understand how to do what it is that you're doing? Because remember, I'm not the one speaking, I'm writing what other people say. I don't
Sure.
normally speak to live crowds except through a camera like this. And so I started looking at that and I started thinking about it. And that brought me on to the whole online course. And is it a scam or a ripoff kind of scenario? And it has to do with this. I can tell you that for the courses that I've made over the years, and I don't think I've ever charged for a course. I make them because I'm working through a thinking slash creativity slash boredom process. And I have all the content. Why not just like make, a course and send it off? Almost everyone on my mailing list has come there by signing up for a course that I did, a free one. Right? And the abandonment course rate for online courses across the board, just generally across the board, which means some of them have 100% and some of them have less. But the abandonment rate, which is the rate at which someone doesn't even watch all the videos in an online course, never mind like does the exercises, is 90%.
It's very high.
It's so high that there's
Yeah.
a whole other movement, in case you've ever come across it, from companies like Maven and Section 4 and stuff, where they have what are now called cohort-based classes, online courses,
Hmm.
where there are videos and stuff, but you actually go through with, it's not like you sign up and you do it, and it's not like a Skillshare kind of thing. It's like you have to start at a certain date, it finishes at a certain date. You're on a Slack channel with a bunch of people. You might have like meetings with people, like, in your little pod, all
Mhm.
all in a quest to get people engaged so they get more out of it. I've done some very expensive versions of that and some cheaper ones.
Yeah, me
Even the
too.
cheaper one seemed like a waste of money because I got very little out of it given how much money I spent. And so I don't think that's the example. That's the way for most people to go anyway.
Yeah,
But
so
why
what
go ahead.
well, no, I'm just thinking through what you said. So a lot of times you get through something like that and you go, "Gosh, I didn't get anything out of that." And you just kind of feel like
Yeah.
you've been scammed even though it just didn't fit into your repertoire or your program at
Mm.
the time.
I mean, it's hard
You
to know if
needed
a
to
course is
complete it.
gonna be good, right?
Yeah,
Because obviously
yeah,
you don't know what's in it fully until you buy it.
until you jump into it and take it.
But I do know why most people buy online courses.
Mm,
There tend to be three reasons that override most of the other reasons. The first is a hope for transformation.
mhm.
That this is the thing. This is the course. It's been pitched to you, or you just have decided and made up, in your own mind, the conviction that this is what you've been missing so that you could be successful in whatever it is you're going to be successful at.
Yeah,
And the hope of transformation is, I think, the number one reason people buy online courses. And then the number two is to find out how somebody did something or how you could do something.
to
Like
get the
sort
same
of
result,
right,
to get
like
the result.
behind the scenes, behind the curtain. Here's how this was all put together. You're a customer, or you buy this, or you bought this course, or you enjoy my YouTube channel. Like, here's how all that's done so that you could replicate it on your own, right? Sort of like a
Mm.
shortcut to the positive future.
Yes.
And so, the hope of transformation really, the shortcut to a positive future is kind of its own reason. It's like, you will bet you have a problem, and this will like magically make it go away.
Yeah, and it'll help me collapse time
Right.
frames.
Right. Or else to learn
Well,
how something's done behind the scenes, if not with the promise, but with an implication.
yeah, the quantum
You
leap
could
theory.
you could sort of redo this yourself and make it work for you, kind of thing.
Mhm.
And I would postulate, I would say that the actual like content and information is the least important reason people buy.
Yeah, I
And the
think so.
hope for transformation is by far the most important,
By far the most.
right? And then, of course, transformation, very hard to deliver on. People give up.
They do.
They don't even watch all the videos,
They don't follow through.
right? But it's like, why do people abandon? And it turns out there are a few reasons around that as well. The one is like the number one reason is the author of the course did not deliver what was promised. Generally, either like they promised too much, they promised something no one could deliver on, or they just did not or could not deliver on what it is that they promised, no matter how grand or modest the promise was. And the other is they didn't deliver or create a high quality course. And you say, okay, well, like, what's quality in the course, and so on. Uh, Basically, what I find, and these are the ones that generally I'm least ticked off by courses that I've paid for that are low quality because they tend to be low priced.
Mm,
So, if you spend $39 and then it's just like some guy rambling on in 8 videos, it's not even structured. There's no script. There's nothing on the screen. There's no pop-ups. There's no, I mean, it's just like, he just sort of like vomits it and you're done, right? Well, I mean, it's 29, 39, $19. What'd you expect, right?
yeah,
But they did the absolute minimum that they needed to do in order to get something published. And there's a whole ethos around that, right? It's like, don't wait till it's perfect. Get it out there,
yeah.
minimum viable product, and so on. That's not the same thing. These courses are sold as the finished product,
Mhm.
not as I'm in beta. Here's my first version of all these things that I'm like selling. And so I'm okay with beta. And if people like identify it as I'm still working at the kinks in this, it's still beta. I might not even keep all these videos. I might add some more, but here's my course. And once you're in, as I make adjustments and improvements, you're going to get them for free anyway. So let's get started. That's
Yes.
fine, right? It's better to have something and do something than have nothing and do nothing. Fine. But then this is the, as far as low quality, right? This is the main reason that online courses, almost all of them, are low quality.
Mm.
And it's that the best way that I can sum this up is I was in a meeting once where we were talking about how to create materials for a group
Mm-hmm.
and for an internal group. Is a big company in the internal group, so it was like a product marketing kind of group, and then there was like another group that they were making stuff for. And I was talking about, okay, so like when are we going to do the revisions? How are we going to like rework the copy?
Right.
Are we going to where are we getting our stock footage and our stock images from to make it like visually arresting? And how are we structuring it and like keeping them interested and re-earning their attention every few minutes and so on. And the other person who was sort of responsible for a big chunk of the actual like creation and making it was like I don't know why we would do any of that. I mean, the quote was, all we can do, Dean, is give them the information, and
Mm-hmm.
what they do with it after that is up to them. And she and I were talking in very different worlds,
Mm.
right? Just because it's valuable doesn't mean that anyone's going to be interested in absorbing it, or ha- or that you should ever expect the audience to do. We talked about like you have to go 90% of the way
Yeah.
whenever you want to communicate. Anyone in the audience, no matter who they are only on the hook for the final 10% to internalize it, pay attention to it, remember it, internalize it, and use it, right? And so this person was like, no, it's 50-50. Like, we make it, we throw it over the fence. If we want to put 500 words on a PowerPoint slide, it's fine. If we just want to like bury them in data and not even try to editorialize and summarize and all, whatever, just give it to them. It's their job to wade through it and hack through the jungle with a machete and find the pieces that make sense for them. And most authors are very similar. They think that this is a 50-50 arrangement where their job ends at creating some version of the content that they can get out of their brain and into a video. And then it's up to the audience to do a whole bunch of work to figure out if it applies to them, how it applies to them, how they would apply it in their lives, and so on. So all of that is a way of saying, I'm considering creating the course,
Mm-hmm.
but of course, there's no way that I can get away with making a crap course.
No.
I mean, just mentally for myself, it would drive me crazy if I knew that it wasn't as good as I could have possibly made it, which means everything takes longer, right?
Right. And I don't think anybody can get away with that these days.
No, it's really hard. I mean,
It's
people
very
like
difficult to do
anything,
that.
there's a gold rush, and then it's like, this is just going to be more junk.
There was a time when you could, but now you've got
Yeah.
professional teaching
Yeah.
going on. A lot of people with Udemy, all professional teachers,
Right.
Skillshare, Coursera. You got a lot of professional stuff
I
online.
would be fascinated to know what the abandonment rate on Skillshare is. My bet is it's even higher than 90%
Yeah, my bet
because of
is
its
pretty high.
model,
Yeah,
right? It's
yeah,
it's it's like, what's the abandonment rate on movies and TV shows in Netflix? It's probably very, very, very high
yeah,
because it's a subscription model. So you've, other than your base subscription price, which you're only charged once a month and then you kind of forget about, you have nothing invested in any one of these courses or any one of those TV shows or movies.
right.
It doesn't cost you anything. You haven't lost any money if you stop watching it because it's boring, whether that's a Skillshare. So I bet their abandonment rate is very high.
I would think so. I would think
But
it is for all.
hmm?
I would think it is for pretty much all of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's high for everyone, but I bet Skillshares is extraordinary. Even by the 90% standard, I bet Skillshares is extraordinarily high.
Yeah, I would think that's true.
There's no downside to stopping. Like, you've lost nothing other than the time you spent watching the videos. So I flirted for a while a few weeks ago with a cohort based model,
Hmm.
but I've decided to start taking the very best, most concentrated pieces of content that I have and converting them into short courses to sell at like very low rates, I think.
Micro courses are kind of all the rage right now.
Yeah,
Courses and converted workshops to courses.
right. And anyone who's ever seen anything that I've done knows that uh, I pack a lot of content into. They're all
Oh yeah.
scripted, and so there's not even an or an ah unless it's there for a reason. And you pack as much as you can into every video. And then if people want to watch it over and over, that's fine. But if they want to go through once, they've got all the salient parts once. And I do not think it's the audience's job to do half or more of the work. The audience should have very little to do. Ultimately, online courses are a form of work-ish entertainment.
Yes.
And if you let go of that and you think, oh no, they're there to learn what I have, like my stuff is what I know is valuable, and they're going to, it's so valuable that it doesn't matter how good the delivery is, it's still worthwhile for them to pay X amount of money to get it. It's like, it's kind of not, bro.
And you want to make sure you're
You owe
appealing
them
to all
better.
their, yeah. And you want to appeal to all their learning styles too, because most
Yeah.
people don't do that in a course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You owe the audience absolutely as much as you can possibly deliver to your audience
Every
every
chance
time.
you can give them for success.
Yes.
Hmm.
And then if you still have a high abandonment rate, you did your very, very, very best and it just wasn't for them. Or there's a mismatch between your sales message and your delivery.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think for the most part, I don't think online courses are necessarily a scam, but I think most of them are a ripoff. And the difference is a scam is someone intended to give you something inferior and take your money. A ripoff is you spent more than something was worth.
Right.
And what's a ripoff? A scam is a scam no matter who buys it. A ripoff might not be a ripoff for a second person, but it might be a ripoff for you.
Mm.
So it costs way more than you got out of it or could have gotten out of it. Whereas someone else, it might be exactly what they were looking for. They're like, that's the greatest course I ever took.
Mm.
I spent $49 on that and I've made $8,000 this year alone based on what I learned. Great, awesome. But for someone else, it was a ripoff.
I do think there's a bit of a disconnect on what the true value of a course can be to
Yeah,
someone. Like in so many ways, they'll look at it and go, well, I don't know if that course is worth, say, $97 to me. But if you go on from that course and it helps you to make $9,700, was
exactly.
the $97 worth it? And many times unfortunately, we aren't thinking in that way. We aren't thinking like an entrepreneur when we purchase the course. Like, is that gonna, if I could make that much, would it really be the true value?
Right. We think like a consumer.
We think like a
I
consumer.
paid $97. Do I feel like I got $97 worth of entertainment out of that
Hmm.
compared to how many months of Netflix I could get for $97? Or what a night at the movies would have cost me, or to have
What,
a little day trip with my family.
when that might have been the $97 that pays you forever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
So
always that side.
scam, not necessarily. Rip off, often, but mostly because the
Yeah.
quality and the work into communicating everything properly and putting it into a package that is the best that that person could do, with the idea that their audience deserved the very, very best that they could do. That's usually what's happening. They're just not, they don't know how, or they don't bother to make something that's so good that it's not a ripoff.
Yeah.
I
And
have
it's good.
taken courses, by the way. I did that you ever heard of Masterclass?
Yeah.
Right? Like there's masterclass.com.
Yes.
Those courses are essentially useless. They really are entertainment. They're meant to be entertainment. You're not going to learn anything from those courses, at least not in my experience. But as far as entertainment goes, it's not bad, right?
No.
You want to see an extended interview with how Aaron Sorkin writes, or wrote The West Wing and stuff. Awesome. You want to see how Reba McEntire, got into and country music and write songs, or well, actually, I mean, I never took that course, but my dad did using my account. Loves it. He's a big Reba McEntire fan, so loves that. Good for him. The Jodie Foster one about movie making, the Martin Scorsese one about movie making. Those
Yeah.
like they're entertainment, sort of behind the scenes. Those are literally behind the scenes. Here's how it happened for me, kind
Yeah.
of
And
places.
I've looked at some of those, and there is certainly
Yeah.
value in that.
But that's a company that understands, like, we're not in the online course learning business. We're not in learning and development. We're in entertainment.
Yeah.
And we're going to
Big difference.
wrap it in a package of entertainment with popular entertainers.
Hmm.
So that's on one end, and then you get what's the one with like the million Udacity, which is you have it's really a crapshoot what kind of quality you're going to get because it's all individual contributors.
Mhm.
And then a little bit up from Udacity, you get Skillshare. Udacity sells courses one by one. You don't like have a subscription, and then Skillshare puts you in a Netflix kind of model,
Right.
right? And then on it goes. There's many ways as you can slice and dice online learning, Coursera and all the other MOOCs and stuff. But generally, I've tried all the ones that I think of: Udemy, Udacity, Skillshare, Masterclass, individual ones, Coursera. There's
Mhm.
something else besides Coursera. And in
There is
in
another one, I can't think of it.
in most of them, it's the same problem. They almost, except for Masterclass, who like really know how to do great production value. But again, they're in the entertainment business, not in the learning business.
Right.
But except for Masterclass, none of them do a very good job on the production side. So the audio isn't great. The visuals are kind of blah.
Yeah.
They expect you to sort of meet them in the middle instead of treating you as the customer
Mhm.
who deserves to have most of the work done for them. They're like a restaurant where you have to like partially cook your own food and then clean up after yourself.
It's a pretty good
And if that's your model,
analogy.
you're doing
Yeah.
that at scale and say, "Hey, I see that Domino's Pizza is running ads now where if you come pick it up because they have a shortage of drivers, if you come pick it up, we'll
They'll
like
give you
give
three
you
bucks.
$3, right?"
$3.
That's totally fine as long as you're upfront and you say like, "Here's what we're doing."
Yeah.
But so yeah, you come into the restaurant and you have to sort of like pick out and like your own food and all that stuff, and then we'll do like some flash cooking. You have to clean up after yourself and wash the dishes. It's not disposable. You have to wash the dishes, but then you can just go home, and we'll knock 35% off the bill. It might not be for me, but there are some
Right.
people who are going to love that.
Philip Powell saying, "Boy, do I have opinions on this topic."
I bet he does. Yeah,
Let him go, Phil.
yeah,
You can always put them in the comments.
yeah.
We'd be happy to chat
John
about them
John
if you
has
want.
taken it upon himself to answer all comments live. So
That's
there
right.
you go.
If you like.
But yeah, most of them are just the production quality is terrible,
Yeah, production
structure is
quality.
terrible. The
Yep.
person just assumes that they can do the minimum, record something quick on their phone and it's good enough. And I don't know, maybe even as near as 5 years ago, it was fine, but not anymore.
No, not anymore. I do think there's a space where you're just getting something put together, but as long as you're promising to evolve it over time and
Yeah.
give them that
Right.
connection, but
Or I mean, if it's
just do something
free,
and leave it. Yeah, or
if
if
it's
it's free.
free, then you
Well,
don't need
yeah,
to
go
go to
ahead.
90%. You can get as far as 70%.
Right.
It's still not 50-50. But if it's free, then 70-75% of the way instead of 90% of the way, it's fine. But if anyone's paying literally anything, even $1, then you owe that person 90%. So scam, probably not. Rip off for a lot of people, kind of yeah.
Yeah,
But it's the creator's
yeah, that
fault.
can happen.
It's not the audience's fault. All right, I think that's about it for me. How about you? You've bought a lot of courses.
I bought a lot of courses. I've created quite a few
You're
courses.
like you're constantly hopeful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I do pick up a lot of different things from different places.
right.
So I do invest a lot in my learning. I think everybody should. But
Yes,
you've got to be smart about doing that. You want to really look at the reviews of things. You want to look at who's created it. Testimonials help. All of those things are going to help you to buy a better course. So,
right. And then I guess the last thing I would leave people with is something that you don't often see behind the scenes for courses is the power curve of pricing. Or
mm,
don't get me wrong, you see it a lot, but consumers are never told that it's in play. So how this works generally in courses is sort of the power law curve of pricing. Is that if you create a course, let's say and you're charging $100, there are 2-3% of everyone who spends $100 who would have spent $200. And
mm,
of the people who spent $200, there's 5 or so percent of them that would have spent $1,000. And so on a graph, it looks like, it's pretty flat all the way, and then it starts to curve, and then it goes right up really fast, and then that's a power law curve.
Yeah.
So in case you're ever looking at a course and there's maybe a $99 version of the course, and then there's a $249 version of the course, and then there's a $1,000 version of the course, that's what's happening. They know that 97, 98% of everybody is going to buy the $99 version,
Right.
unless the middle tier phenomenon is in effect. The middle tier phenomenon is if you deliberately make 3 versions of something at 3 different price points, so that knowing that most people will buy whatever's in the middle.
Yeah, and you can always
Just
go
because
and
it's in the middle. They figure, okay, I don't want the cheapest, but I don't think I'd get everything out of the most expensive. So it's safer for me to make a choice where I'm going to be in the middle. So there you go. But the power law curve, the reason you get these sort of, it's this much, and then it's this much, and then it's this much, it goes way up, is because, that's the power curve.
I was gonna say, and you can typically go back if you say bought the $97 version of a course to try it out and just see if it,
Yeah.
is something that makes sense, if it's put together well, if it answers, your particular need, to then go back and say, you know what, I'd like to upgrade to a different version. And most
Look
people will do that.
you've seen this, right?
Yeah.
If you buy the $99 version and you look at the content, whatever the quality is of that content, that's the exact same quality you're going to get in the $1,000
In the
version.
$1,000
What you get
version.
in the $1,000 version is access to the course creator.
Mhm.
You might be part of like an online community or a Facebook group, which costs the creator nothing, by the way. And it's time to sort of moderate the group. It doesn't actually cost them for the platform and everything like that.
Right.
Right. And so, generally speaking, you have to really be in the 1 or 2% who are going to get the maximum benefit in order to pay 10 times as much and get 10 times as much.
Yeah. That's true.
But
You
if
really
you're
do.
that kind of person, that's great, and you should do it. Go ahead and spend the $1,000. But I think the most I ever spent on any course was $4,000. That was for Seth Godin's Alt MBA. That's what it cost when I did it. And that was a cohort-based one where you go through and there's stuff to do every day for like 3 weeks or a month or something, and there's groups to meet with live and all that kind of stuff. It's the whole thing. But
Right.
But generally speaking, whatever the video, if you look at the videos for the $99 one, and like the audio is so echoey, you can barely even understand what anyone's saying. It's like, I do not want to listen to 10 hours of this audio. It's going to drive me crazy. It's not suddenly going to be magically better. They don't make like crap quality stuff
No,
at
no, no.
$99. It's the exact same stuff. They even included in the, and so if
In the,
it's really
that's
bad at $99, it's not going to be 10 times better at $1,000. I promise.
no, probably not.
Yeah. All right. That's it for me.
That's it for me. I
All
can't
right.
think of anything else I can really add to that.
All right. So much fun. Go ahead, buy courses, but understand that it's probably a ripoff. Be careful about what you're buying.
Do
And if
your
you're
due
making them,
diligence.
make them better. Like seriously, guys and gals.
Yeah,
Make
that's a
them
real
better.
answer. Make them better.
Just making it, if the people like me who make them better, it solves all of the other problems, including the audience's problems. So let's do that. All
I
right.
agree.
Bye, everybody.